Okay, you ready to go, Melvin?
Right.
We're here in the home of Charles Dyas in Earlville this afternoon. Date's March 26, 1987. My name's Kenneth Stockley, and operating the video camera is Melvin Mitchell. We're conducting a series of interviews of residents of Earlville, asking them to help us record their memories of days gone by and things that happened around Earlville in the past. And Chuck, you're a good one to talk to here because you've been around Earlville quite a while.
Well, about as long as anybody, I guess, that you can get a hold of.
When did you move to Earlville?
1932 in October.
1932.
1932.
Now, you weren't born in Earlville?
No, I was born, strange to say, down on a farm near Hull, Illinois, along the Mississippi River.
Oh.
And my folks moved to Sandwich, where my granddad operated the hotel there, when I was 2 years old. So I grew up in Sandwich and started in the theater business in Sandwich, and
You went to school in Sandwich?
went to school in Sandwich, graduated from high school there, and after that I've been in the show business ever since.
Did you start as a, how'd you start, as a projectionist or a
Well,
usher?
I started as most kids do, peddling bills and just hanging around the theater and
Selling tickets maybe? Or?
well, taking tickets,
Taking tickets,
and
yeah.
finally worked my way up to learn how to run the projectors, and then went into the booking and movie, the advertising and all that, and then
Well, now was that, when you started, was that in, did they have sound yet? Or was that silent?
no, that was silent.
Oh, that was
That
silent?
was silent. That was
Oh.
back in the silent days.
Yeah.
In fact, I've even cranked the projectors by hand.
Well, they cranked them by hand then.
Well, they had motors on them then, but occasionally something would go wrong and you'd wind up cranking the rest of the show out by hand.
Well, now I've heard that they had a piano player usually.
Yes,
in the
they
theater.
had
Is
a
that right?
piano player, and with each picture they had what they call a little music score. They gave one bar of music to give the piano player the type of music to play during that particular scene, and that's the way they scored it.
Oh. And then the dialogue was printed on the
Dialogue
on
was
the screen.
printed in titles, most
Yeah.
of it, yes.
Then it was the picture pretty good pictures. Were they pretty good quality, or could they flicker
Oh, yeah.
more?
No,
or,
well, they didn't flicker. In those days, in silent days, the projectors were not set to a certain speed. They were, you could control the speed. They had a speed control attachment on them. And if you wanted the show to last a little longer, you slowed it up. But you could, you could only slow it up so much. Because if you slowed it too much, you got a flicker on the screen. So you could only slow it up to the point where it was starting to flicker, just a hair, and then you had to quit. And you could also speed it up.
You could have the people run faster or run slower on the screen then.
But you usually stayed at set it at about a normal speed and then just left it there. You didn't fool with it.
Well, now when about did they change from silence to
Well, the sound came in 27.
27.
Yeah,
So
in the fall of 27 with the.
That was a big
Big
improvement, wasn't it?
Oh, you better believe it. But you know, when sound first came out, it was on records.
Oh.
The records were about that big around. And in fact, I have one of the original turntables out in
Was that so?
the shed out in the drive-in.
It wasn't.
It came out of the lyric.
Is that so?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
But I don't have any of the records, which I'm sorry I don't have.
It wasn't part of the film itself then.
No,
you had to kind of coordinate it with
not
the film.
Not until about 2 or 3 years later, when Fox came out with sound on film. That changed the whole thing.
If you didn't coordinate the record with the film, it'd be out of
you had
sync,
trouble. You had trouble, and you didn't have to have very many inches of film missing to throw that soundtrack off. I got pretty good at slipping that needle on that disc, I'll tell you.
Get it ahead a little or a little
Yeah.
back a little,
Well,
so the words in their lips would move.
You
at
could
the
go
same
one
time.
way pretty good, but the other way you had trouble. You could stick that needle and ruin the record, or jump a track, and then you were in trouble.
How about breaking the film? Did you ever have any trouble breaking the film
Well,
in those days much or not?
Not too much, no. No, we had good film cement in those days, and we never had much trouble with film breaking. In fact, we never have had.
How did you get the films through brokers or something?
No, from each film company had their branch office in Chicago.
Oh, like RKO or,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Fox or MGM?
Yeah, they all had their own branch, and then they would, salesmen would come out and sell you whatever pictures you wanted. Usually you bought a year's supply at a time, the whole product that they were going to release for that particular year.
Well, you moved from Sandwich then to where?
Well,
Here,
I went
or?
from Sandwich, I was over to Plano. I ran the Plano Theater for quite a number of years, and then finally wound up over at Mendota for about a year, and then had the chance to take the Lyric over.
Oh, now were you married at the time? Or
Yes, I was married at the time.
did your family, do you have children then yet? Or children more after you came
You
to
shouldn't
Earlville?
have asked me that.
Well,
I can't remember.
while we're talking about your
no,
family.
all the children were born in Earlville.
They were born in Earlville.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's mention their names just for the record.
Well, Gene Glazer lives over in Mendota, is the oldest, and John Dyas, or Ronald Dyas, is the next oldest, and he lives in Anaheim, California. And John Dyas lives in Yorba Linda, California, and Janet, the youngest child, lives in Yorba Linda. They're all three within about a mile of each other.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice. So if you go out to visit them, you can see
Yeah,
pretty much the whole
I
thing.
just run around from one house to the other.
And they went to school in Earlville and grew up in Earlville.
They all went to school in Earlville.
I remember some of your
Yeah.
children pretty
Oh, yeah.
well. Yeah. Well, getting back to the to Earlville, the Lyric was was not a. I mean, it was already here when you came.
It was already here.
Didn't start it.
It was built in either 1912 or 1914. I'm not sure which date. But
Well, let's just mention where it was, since it isn't there anyway.
Well, it's would be just south of the on the parking lot of the One Stop Foods.
It's kind of right.
Yeah.
Is it right where the parking lot is, or where the store is?
The
One
north
Stop
side
Food?
of the parking lot, up to about the building. Well, not quite up to the building.
That's the location.
Yeah,
That's on
there was a store building to the south of the Lyric.
on the east side of Ottawa Street.
Yes. The east side of Ottawa
in
Street.
the business district.
Yeah, on the corner of where the parking lot is for the One Stop.
Now, who built it or who operated it originally?
Well, it was originally operated by a man by the name of Edgett, and his wife used to play the piano. And they ran it up until, I would say probably the late 20s or early 30s.
And then did you bought it from them, or you
No,
were the next one up?
The fellow that was running it had a chance to take a job with the theater in Rochelle, so he gave this up. And I heard about it, so I came over and made a deal with it. A fellow by the name of Smith that lived over here on Grant Street had charge of the property,
I see.
and it actually belonged to Bill Huff.
I see.
And
It just so happens.
so I just leased it with the provision to buy it
Oh.
if I wanted to.
Yeah. Let's give it a try.
And give it a try. And eventually I did buy it.
It was pretty successful, as I recall.
Well, we made a living, and that's about it.
Well, it just so happens I saw in the Earlville Leader today, in the 60 years ago or 70 years ago column, where they raised the prices of admission in the Lyric Theater from 10 cents to 15 cents.
Yes, well,
What did you start out at? Do you
we
remember?
started out, I believe it was around a quarter.
Around a quarter admission.
And in fact, I've got some tickets up in the attic showing those prices. And
Quarter admission. That's
Yeah.
a big change from
Oh.
going to the theater. Some places now they charge like $5.50.
$6.
$6.
Some of the big ones in Chicago have gone up to $6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many seats were in the theater?
There was about around 300.
300.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it was that big.
around 300.
There was a balcony too, I remember.
Yes, we put in a little balcony when we remodeled it.
Oh, you put that in.
Yeah, we put that in. And, well, we had a little over 300, I think, because I picked up some seats down at the theater in Sheffield that was closed, and we put them in the Lyric, and there was 400 seats down there, and we had a few left over.
They were cushion seats.
Yeah,
weren't they?
so there was a good little over 300 seats in there.
Then there was a stage.
Oh, yes, there was.
I believe there was curtains
They
too.
were fairly sized. We had a good sized screen. Our picture, I believe, was around 22 feet wide.
22 feet.
at the end there when after CinemaScope came in.
Now the marquee, was that marquee
No, we put
on
that
there, or
on.
did you put that
no,
on?
we put that on.
You put that on. That
Put
made
on. We completely redid the front end.
good addition, and you put on a
Yeah.
ticket booth there in the front
Yeah,
and
the
everything.
ticket booths originally there was one on each side. It
Oh,
was a kind of a dual deal. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but that's the way it was. When we first started out, that's the way we had it. Then we remodeled it and we put the ticket booth in the middle.
did you always have popcorn?
Oh yes.
That's one thing I remember about the theater was that popcorn.
We used to buy our popcorn, pretty well locally around here for, I think 3 cents a pound, something like that.
I've been told that the popcorn is a pretty important part of the income on theaters. Is that right? Or
It's very definitely, you can't make a go with just the box office. You have to have that concession.
That's what someone else has told me.
Very definitely, and it ain't just here, it's all over the country.
Popcorn and the drinks and candy and whatever
That's
is
right.
important.
That is a big item today.
What kind of projection equipment did you have?
Well, when we came in
came
here, they had Western Electric sound, but Western Electric was a hard outfit to get along with, and I didn't get along with them. They didn't get along with me, and we wasn't very long before we got rid of it. Put in a different type of, and actually I think we had better sound afterwards than we did with the Western Electric.
I remember going to the theater when I was in school, that sometimes you let the schools use it for an assembly or a special show.
Yeah,
or
well,
something like that.
originally they gave all their school plays on the stage at the Lyric.
Oh, was that so?
That was before my time, though, but that was used as an auditorium for the school, really.
I knew the school had used it, but I didn't realize they did
Yes,
have plays.
they put on their school plays there.
Because we used to go for special
Yeah.
films, I know, and
Yeah.
for an assembly sometime.
Yeah, we
like
used-
at Christmas time, they'd have Santa Claus come to the
Oh yes,
Lyric
we
Theater.
always ran a free Christmas show,
Yeah.
and of course the merchants sponsored that mostly.
The Lyric was a big part of the town for
Oh.
a number of years. What date or when was it torn down, or was it sold then? Do you remember?
Well, we sold it in. We ran it a couple of years after we opened the drive-in. That would have been, I would say we tore it down around 56 or 57. 57 probably.
So you ran it, 25, 30 years
Yeah,
anyway. Yeah.
right.
Now the drive-in, did you start the drive-in about just before that?
We
or
started the
about the same time?
drive-in about 2 years before we closed the Lyric.
The drive-in's out
Yeah.
west of town.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong, but isn't that the marquee that you have out at the drive-in that used to be part of the Lyric, or am I wrong?
No, it's not.
Where you announced the
that
movies?
marquee that's out there came off of the Amboy Theater.
Okay, well it kind of looked like the one I remembered there.
Well, they were all pretty much similar,
Yeah.
but they closed that theater up there at Amboy, and I was a good friend of the man that owned it, and he told me one day, he says, if you want that marquee, he says, come up and get it. I decided it'd be a good thing to have out there on that shed.
Oh, sure.
So
Sure.
we went up and got it
Well, you need to have a
and mounted it out there.
little advertising.
Yeah.
What you're going to
Yeah,
have.
because we didn't really have anything that we could put letters on at that time, and it worked out very good.
I seem to remember a windstorm or something damaging the drive-in. When was that?
Well, we lost 2 or 3 screens out there.
You have that many?
completely.
Oh, complete.
Oh,
blew
yes.
them right over.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
The first one was a wooden screen that buckled right in the middle, or not off to one side a little bit, about a third of the way in, and it buckled. And then we lost part of the steel one. Then when we rebuilt the steel one, we built it a little bit wider than it was before, because our CinemaScope picture wasn't coming out. We were cutting too much on the edges, so we widened it out, and we didn't know exactly how much more to widen it, but I found out since that I could have gone about 18 inches more on each side, and I'd have had it perfect.
Oh. Well, the last one has lasted pretty good, though.
Oh
hasn't it?
yes,
You haven't
yes.
had
Well,
any trouble with it.
they're built to stand 150-mile-an-hour winds, so I'm hoping we don't get anything quite that strong.
No. Did you ever know any movie stars, Chuck? Or did any come through here in
Well,
advertising
yes.
their pictures?
Yes, well, not a, well, yes, we did have a lot. We had a bunch of movie stars to a football game down here at one time.
Was that right?
And that were on tour. Barbara Hale,
Oh yeah.
used to be from Rockford,
Mm-hmm.
and I forget there was quite a few of them. In fact, I think I've got a movie of it.
Oh, is that so?
Yes.
You were mentioning you had to.
That's when I was shooting a lot of movies.
You
I
said
have
you
a
had.
movie of that, and we did have. We had a bunch of clothes from Little Women. A whole trunk full of clothes.
From the original
From
film.
the original film, Little Women, and we had her to a Lions Club meeting, and we had local girls model those clothes.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
And after the clothes left here, they were on display in Marshall Field's window in the Chicago Loop.
I see. Did you did you bring them back then? I mean, do you have the clothes here now, or are they
Oh,
they're
God,
going
no.
somewhere else? They're going somewhere else. Now.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, those clothes were valuable.
Well, I noticed.
There was a real big trunk full, I'll tell you that.
You have talking about advertising. I see you've got a few pictures here that you've collected, and you were telling me about your collection. Do you want to mention your collection of show bills and advertising?
I've been collecting movie posters ever since I got into business, and I've got stuff going clear back to 1916. I don't know whether you can get that or not, but that was a 1916 release.
Hold it up just a little. 1916.
1916 is when that came out.
It's getting back pretty old.
And
where's that big one? You had a
then
big
I
one
also
there.
have, I have hundreds of these.
Let's hold up that big one.
I think everybody will recognize this pair.
Who is that?
Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy.
About how old would this be?
Well, that probably went back to 47.
47. Well, that's pretty colorful. And there were a lot of posters like this advertising
yes,
movies.
I have, well, so far I've cataloged about 18 boxes.
That's quite a collection.
And I think I'm probably halfway through. I've got one box I just finished with.
Why don't you sit down?
I just finished with this morning. There's all stills like this in the box. There's 893 in the box so far.
Now who is this?
This is Vincent Price. I can't
Vincent
tell you
Price.
the picture because I haven't been able to figure it out
He's
yet.
got a bat over his head there.
Yeah.
Hasn't he?
But it's about around 59, I
See,
think.
you had another.
Yeah, and that's Agnes Moorehead was in the same picture. I have some very beautiful posters out there and photographs. I'll say that.
Well, these were commonly used to advertise pictures.
In fact, there's a lot more used in those days than there is today. Very little of this stuff is used today.
Well, that's interesting. Do you have everything else that you'd like to add while we're talking here, Chuck?
Well,
We've pretty well covered a lot of your career. You're still operating the.
we're still operating the drive-in, and we hope to open again this year. It'll be our 33rd year.
33rd year.
Yeah.
I wish you had that picture. You were telling us earlier you had a picture of the lyric
Well, I'm going
taken by Glenn. Was it you and Glenn Everham? Was
Glenn
that
Everham
was
took
that
it,
the
yeah.
story? Glenn Everham was a local photographer and camera buff in town, and
Yes, he took it, and
you had a box camera. You said.
it was a big old box camera. I have it up in my bedroom upstairs, and it turned out very good.
Maybe we'll get that sometime and get a copy of it. We could put over in the display rooms at the library for
Well,
the
I'm
historical
going to find
society.
it, and it's got to be here someplace. But I've got so many boxes to go through that
You've got quite a collection. Haven't
they're all over the house. I'll tell you that.
you? Well, Chuck, it's been nice talking to you today, and we appreciate
I think the town
all your
was,
memories.
I think the town was a lot more active in those days than it is today. I'll say that.
It was nice having the
It
theater there as a kind of a center of
Yeah.
activities too.
Yes, I think it was. The town was, you might say, a 24-hour town. There was something doing every hour of the day, out and night in
Remember,
those days. That's more than you can say now.
you had, when was it you had double features? I know you had double features occasionally.
Oh,
Two for the price of one.
Yeah, we ran double features in the Lyric on Friday and Saturday for a long time. Yeah.
Friday and Saturday was double feature night.
Yeah, that was the night of the westerns.
Yeah, you didn't charge
you had to have a western on Saturday night, or you didn't get anybody.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You didn't charge any more for the double feature really than for the single.
Sometimes we even threw a cartoon in.
Yeah. Cartoons before the features, and then there was advertising too.
Oh yes, we on merchant advertising on the screen.
Now, where did you get that merchant advertising?
Well,
did someone shoot it, or did you shoot it
no,
locally?
no, we didn't. We didn't shoot any of it locally. It was from a firm out of St. Paul, most of it.
They would prepare.
They would prepare it up. It was all stock stuff, and all they did was prepare the merchant's name and add it to stock footage
I see.
of the products that they handled, you know.
And you changed
and
it.
of course, we had slides too to advertise the different merchants. I still have some of those old slides.
Miller Row, and I remember quite a few of the old businesses that. Did you? Do you have any? Would you change anything the way you operated now, looking back, Chuck? Would you have enlarged it, made a bigger theater out of it?
Well, we had some plans, and in fact, we had drawings for some plans to change it and incorporate the building in the corner onto it, but it never materialized because things were going downhill about that time, and it would have been too big a gamble.
There wasn't people here probably to support it at that time.
Well, probably not. It would have taken increased business to handle it. I know that. Whether it was there at that time, I don't know.
The drive-in's been a pretty good addition. There aren't too many drive-ins left in this part of the country.
In fact, we're the only drive-in between Aurora and the Mississippi River, and between Rockford and Peoria.
Right now?
Right now.
I didn't realize that you were that unique. That's I see you have a picture up there on the wall. I suppose I could take that down and Melvin get a shot of it?
No, he can get a shot of it there. It's been done. Leave it up there and he can get the trophies and all.
Well, okay, we'll do that. We'll do that later. We'll do that after he takes it off.
You can get a picture of the key that I got to the city.
Okay, yeah, that'd be a good idea.
You know, I was mayor in 12.
That's right. You were mayor for several years, weren't you?
Mayor for 3 terms, 12 years.
I didn't remember it was that long.
Yeah, 12 years.
That was back about what, 20-some years ago?
Well, no, I told you.
I don't remember.
I told you when we
dates.
started this. Don't ask me dates because I'm no good at remembering them.
Okay.
But it was about, well, at the time Marathon came here, I was very much instrumental in getting the Marathon plant built here.
Oh, now it was. It was. Who had it before Marathon? Someone had it before Marathon.
Well, it was a Mid-States Electric.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
that had it,
and they make welders or
they made welders, yes, and they got in some financial trouble through. It's a long story. I have no use going into it, but they sold the building before it was even started.
Mm-hmm. I see.
And or sold the land, and Marathon did the building.
I know they did. I think they made some welders there because I remember.
No, they didn't. The building wasn't completed.
They didn't make any welders.
No, they didn't make any welders. They started the building, and then Marathon took it over.
I see. And that was during your term
That
as
was
mayor.
when I was mayor, one of the terms. I don't remember which one. The last one, probably.
What else can you remember about when you were mayor? I suppose you had the street improvement and civic improvement.
We did quite a bit of street improvements, and we had several things set up on the sewage plant that were built after I left. Somebody else got the credit for it, but I had it set up, which is normal.
Yeah, oh yes.
And it takes quite a while for those things to go through, you know. You set them up 1 year, and maybe 2 years later they do them. And
I recall that was it during your term that they raised the street up? You know, the sidewalks used to be about
yes,
3 or 4,
No, that was
3 or 4 feet higher than the
yeah,
street
that
level.
was after I left as mayor.
Why were those
But-
sidewalks like that?
Well, it's just the way the town was laid out, I guess.
Would
It was
that-
just a normal level. They didn't bother to build them up.
Would that have had anything to do with horse and buggies, you suppose? They could pull,
It
pull a
could
buggy
have.
alongside
It
the
could have.
sidewalk and step
I
out?
don't think so, though. I think it was just a natural slope of the land there.
I remember those. You had to be careful pulling into the car. You
Yeah.
could wreck the front end with,
Yeah,
with that
it,
sidewalk so high.
But they were built up quite a bit when they paved it, and it made a big improvement.
Did they have street lights when?
Oh
here
yes,
when
yes,
you,
we had
good street lights?
we had the street light posts. I don't remember whether they were put in when I was in or I think they were already in when I took over.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to
Well, I can't.
mention,
I
Chuck?
can't think of anything right
Who,
now.
who's the? We haven't talked much about people. Who stands out in your mind as some of the characters around town back a few years ago? You
Well,
mentioned one of them here a while ago.
Babby Davis.
Babby Davis is
Babby
one.
Davis,
Yeah, he's gone now.
Well, it was. I think every town had characters when you come right down to it, and I'm sure we had our share.
I recall Babby Davis had a polka dot mustache for the centennial that we had.
Let's see.
John Smith, I remember, the night watchman.
Old John was a policeman from one of my terms,
Yeah, he was
and
He was
he
a
was a
policeman
very good man.
for a long time.
Very good man. And Jack Tabor was policeman
Jack Tabor.
when I was in. And
Remember Harry Osborough when he ran the MP store here?
oh yes,
Harry Osborough?
yes. Freddie Mueller.
Freddie Mueller,
Yeah.
yes, Freddie Mueller. Yeah. Now, was he the barber or?
He was the barber.
He was the barber.
And he was also on the fire department. And every time that the fire whistle would blow, of course we had the fire truck in the old city hall in them days. So he would, instead of going around the block to get to the fire station, he would cut through the A&P store.
You better, the customers better get out of the way then. Huh?
Well, they got a little tired of that, so they had it all fixed up with a little trap for Freddie. So when he come dashing through there one day, they pulled a string up and over went Freddie right into a bunch of bananas or something, and I guess that cured his going through the A&P store.
He went around the block after that.
I can remember that. So I guess we had our share of characters.
Yeah, I guess so.
We probably a lot more if you could just sit here and think of them, but
I was thinking of the old pool hall the other day that we used to have across the.
Yes.
Remember all the characters
Oh,
used to hang
yes.
around the pool hall?
yes, we had
Wolf's ran it for some time that I
yes,
recall.
Eddie Wolf and
George, was it?
his boy and his brother George, and Eddie had a boy named Gary.
Oh yes, he's in the movie business now.
Well,
isn't he?
he's
Or an author?
he's been an author for some time, and he sold one of his stories to Disney. And this was several years ago. And Disney kind of, well, there was a lot of changes going on at the Disney studio about that time. They were shuffling the top echelon around, and somehow the picture kind of got shoved to one side. But it's been resurrected now, and it's been taken over by Spielberg,
Oh,
and they are already shooting it in England.
I see.
It's being made in England.
And Gary Wolf originally
It's Gary's book.
wrote the story, and he probably
They
is writing.
changed the title a little bit. I believe the book was Who Killed Roger Rabbit, and they've changed the title to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Who framed it? But I think it's coming out at Christmas time this year.
We'll sure be looking forward to seeing that because
It should be very good with Spielberg behind it.
yeah, and that's a product of an Earlville boy too.
That's right.
It's his idea.
Maybe we could have the premiere here.
Hey, maybe we could have it out at the drive-in.
Yes, in the middle of the winter. No, I'm afraid that's out. But I'm looking forward to see it. I know
Yeah,
that.
I am too.
Yes.
Well, Chuck, thanks for everything.
Well,
and
glad
before we leave
glad
here,
to take it, and
before we leave here, we'll have maybe Melvin can come in and get a shot of your trophies
yeah, I'll take
and
a
your
shot of
and your
the
the drive-in. Now, what are these trophies? Are some you've?
they're from our drive-in bowling team
Oh, your
and
drive-in bowling
some of my own.
Oh, I see. Well, Melvin, maybe you can.
And comedy.
Our gang comedy.
Yeah.
That was one of the pictures you
Oh,
you showed for
two real comedies.
two real comedies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're showing a lot of them. Get a shot of the books over there if you can.
Was your books of movies?
All movies at
all
one
movies?
shelf, yes.
And drive-in theater. Where that was taken from an aerial.
That was taken
view.
from an airplane, yes. The manager of one of the theaters down in LaSalle at that time took it from his plane. He flew over and took that picture and gave me the negative, and my projectionist blew it up for me.
Then you've got the bowling team
Yeah, some
trophy.
of them.
What's that key there?
Pardon?
What's the key on the wall? The key to the city or something?
That's the key that was given to me by the mayor, Orrin Sturgeon, at our open house off the drive-in 2 years ago.
Oh.
I don't know whether you can get that or not.
You had the key to the city then?
Yeah.
1982.
The one on the back of a tire when they had carried the spare tire on the rear of the cars. This is from 1936, which would be just 4 years after we took over the Lyric.